Hey guys, it's me Simo Orohara, and in this video we're gonna talk about something very exciting. With the appearance of Nimaiya Uetsu, many of our concepts about the Zanpakuto changed. We learned a lot of information about this weapon, including the fact that Nimaiya is the one responsible for inventing the Asauchi, the base sword that every Shinigami needs in order to eventually have a Zanpakuto. And after these revelations about Nimaiya and the Zanpakuto, an important question emerged. How did Nimaiya come up with the idea of creating the Asauchi in the first place? What inspired him? These questions led many fans to consider various possibilities. One of which is, what if Nimaiya and his team were inspired by the Arrancar Zanpakuto when creating the Shinigami Zanpakuto? So, how could that be, guys? That's what we will be discussing in this video, guys, by exploring a number of similarities that makes this theory possible. And to begin with, guys, in order to talk about the possibility that Nimaiya based the Asauchi on the Arrancar Zanpakuto, we first need to determine when the Arrancar appeared and when Nimaiya created the Zanpakuto or the Asauchi. Because if Nimaiya invented the Asauchi before the existence of the Arrancar, then this theory would obviously be impossible. And honestly, if we follow the manga and even the data books, I don't think these questions have been clearly answered. But lucky us, we do have comprehensive information about this in the light novel of Can't Fear Onward. Part 3. In this part, guys, of the novel, which discusses the past of the hollow Ikemokudomoi, now he was sealed inside a Zanpakuto, it is confirmed that Ikemokudomoi existed in a time when the reality was completely different from what we know today, and even the Shinigami at that time didn't yet possess Zanpakuto. More than that, guys, it also confirmed that even before Ikemokudomoi, the Vaster Lord class hollows like Baragan already existed, and some of them have even become Arrancar. We're talking about a very ancient era, and yet Vaster Lord and Arrancar were already present. Why the Shinigami still didn't have Zanpakuto in the form we know today? And more than that, guys, even when Ikemokudomoi decided to invade the Soul Society, an event that happened sometime later, Nimaiya was still conducting his research on the Asauchi. So instead of fighting him, they just sealed him inside a Zanpakuto. At that time, Yamamoto was still a young man, and this means that the Asauchi that Nimaiya created, which became the foundation of every current Zanpakuto, was most likely invented several thousands of years ago. Meanwhile, the Arrancars had already existed long before that. So now we can say with confidence, the Arrancars existed long before Nimaiya invented the Shinigami Zanpakuto. Now we come to an important point, the Arrancar and their Zanpakutos. We know that some of the key features of Arrancars are their broken masks, their human appearance, and their swords, which they also call Zanpakuto. And Kubo recently confirmed in one of his answers that the Arrancar swords made from the remnants of their broken mask, meaning when their mask breaks, the shattered remains become their sword. And if we link this to the definition of the Arrancar sword, is the place where the Arrancars seal the core of their hollow powers. And as we know, guys, releasing all the power within that sword is what's called resurrection. And here is, guys, where the difference becomes clear. The formation of the Arrancar sword is a natural process, not artificial. It's a result of the evolution the hollows undergo. In other words, the Arrancars or hollows never sat down and thought, we need a weapon, so let's invent a sword or a Zanpakuto. None of that. The sword is simply one of the manifestations of reaching the Arrancar stage. It's ultimately just a part of their broken mask. For all of these reasons, it is possible that the Shinigami wanted to transform their ordinary swords into something more like the Arrancars, where they too could seal part of their power inside the blade and use it in a different way, like the Arrancars do. But here is, guys, also another key difference, which is the thing that acts as a sword. In the case of the Arrancars, the sword is originally a fragment of the mask which is the core of the Minos that became an Arrancar. And the Minos itself is actually a collection of multiple hollows who fuse through evolution to become a single entity. So it seems that Nimaiya did base the concept of the Zanpakuto on the formation of the Arrancar's mask and the sword. Because as he explained, the Asauchi is made by layering multiple Shinigami souls together, which is exactly how the Arrancar mask forms. And since, as we said, the Arrancar are a fusion of multiple hollows where one becomes the dominant soul, so we can say yes, Nimaiya based his creation of the Asauchi on several elements about the Zanpakuto of the Arrancar, and this includes the idea of combining multiple souls to form the sword, as well as the concept of sealing power inside it. Arrancars seal their hollow powers into their sword, and the Shinigami do something similar, although in a different way, since the Shinigami swords are usually sealed before they are awakened. And speaking about awakening, guys, it's very possible that the method of awakening a Zanpakuto was also inspired by how the Arrancars release their swords. The Arrancars use a word of awakening with the name of their ability or sword. And this is exactly what we see with the Shinigami as well. The only difference is that the Shinigami have the Shika, which is a partial release, and then the full release, which is the Bankai. And Oro Harakisuki once said that the Bankai is equivalent to the Arrancar's resurrection. And also we have seen in the last arc that the Arrancars can partially release their powers, just like Rimiju did during the Quincy arc when he attacked Askin Naklovar. So all of these guys suggests that it was actually the Shinigami who borrowed a lot from the Hollows, especially when it comes to their most powerful weapon, the Zanpakuto. Now guys, if we go back to the past, a big question arises. How did the Shinigami fight Hollows back then, before the invention of a true Zanpakuto? Especially considering that Hollows have natural powers without needing artificial tools like the ones the Shinigami rely on. And I'm speaking here about the Zanpakuto. Of course, not all Hollows reach the stages of Gillian, Adiokas, Vassal Lord or Arrancars, but even a small number of them could pose a massive threat if they decided to attack Soul Society. We saw this with the Komokodomoi, who wouldn't be defeated by the series' regular Shinigami, and it took Ichibi and Nimaiya themselves to intervene and seal him inside a sword. Another point, guys, we have only seen two natural Arrancar in two cases, Irikura and Stark, and these are considered true natural Arrancars, and the rest become complete Arrancars only thanks to the Hogyuku, which helped them evolve. That's why, guys, I have always been curious to see what natural Arrancar swords looked like, and how they were formed without any artificial intervention. So guys, what do you think about what I have said about this theory? Tell me guys your opinions in the comments, and see you in my next video.